Nice Christmas tree, Aspromonte.
You know that I felt the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
Wow, he's wearing a shirt. He's wearing a shirt.
I know.
So let's start like this. We'll start at the beginning, but before we do that, let's have everybody just say their name and what their role was on the film, so that the people who are watching know who everybody is. Since Allie's the big cheese, how about you start?
Oh, gosh, Swickard. Hey guys, my name is Afshar. I am the craft service and head catering.
Oh my God.
Allie is the executive producer, and he plays the role of Leo. And let's have Daniel. Why don't you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Daniel Aspromonte. I was one of the producers together with Allie and Lauren, and I was also like the line producer and post supervisor, and also catering and craft.
And you were also on screen.
Lauren and Josh, could we have you introduce yourselves, please?
Yes. Hi, guys. I'm Lauren Swickard. I was writer and producer of this movie, and it was also Callie in the
star.
Yes, it was so much fun.
I'm Josh Swickard. I played Joseph. I played her love interest. And what's up, Pat Clark? I'm glad you watched on the chat.
And Josh, you were also one of the co-producers on the project.
And I helped some behind the scenes.
And Shaun, can we have you to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Shaun Piccinino. I'm the director, and I also have a really big role in the movie. And if you blink, you will miss it. But that's what I'm most proud of, is my Christmas sweater wearing cameo.
Your career. That's what you're known for.
Please. Brett?
Me?
Yes.
Hey, hello. I'm Brett Hedlund, the editor of this fine film. So I'm sick of seeing all the actors' faces, but bear it a little longer tonight.
You're also sick of seeing the producers' faces, I think.
Oh, man.
I love your Christmas tree.
That's all Caitlin's work. So.
And
Where's Caitlin?
We all figured.
I'll winner take somewhere.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, I'm Jamie, and I'm the composer on the film, and also co-wrote some original songs with one of the other characters in the film. What was her name in the film again?
Liz.
With Liz, who sings in the bar scenes, and we also did an arrangement for "Oh Holy Night" at the end.
So good.
Really good.
I love all the songs, and the originals are so good.
Yeah.
To lay the foundation, how about Lauren and Josh? Why don't you tell the story of how you guys met and where all this began before it began?
Okay. So we met thanks to this group of people right here. How many years ago?
September 2017.
2017. So we met on another ESX movie called Roped, and we met 2 days before the movie started shooting. Shaun was there when we met for the very first time at Warner Brothers, and that was history. And we've been, together.
We did like a little read through, right?
Yeah, we did it was a director's rehearsal or a chem test.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
it was like a chemistry test /
Yeah, I think
everybody get to know each other.
Wait.
Yeah.
You got rehearsal time?
What?
You got rehearsal time?
Back in the day.
Not on this one, that's for sure.
And you know what it secretly was? Because Allie was like, he probably had some camera set up or something. We're seeing if you guys didn't have chemistry,
Yeah.
one of you guys had to go. You know what I'm saying?
I got the chopping block.
So that's
Not really. That's not true, but sure.
So that's how you guys met. You met on the previous film.
Yeah.
What was the beginning of A California Christmas? Was it an idea you had? Did ESX bring it to you? Where did it begin?
So, it started with Allie kind of saying, we need to take advantage of this time. Why don't we do a movie? Right, Allie? I don't even know how it happened. It all happened so fast. It was very crazy.
It was something like that, We want to work together again with you guys, and I think it was like, we should do a Christmas movie for once, and why not with you guys? And we'll
How
do it.
fast can you write it?
Yeah, how fast can we do it and can we get it done, because nobody else is going to have one ready, and we will, so that was the Hail Mary attempt of doing this.
Yeah.
And
Genius.
part of it was also the fact that there were a couple, and when Allie brought it up to me, I was like, it's perfect, because during the pandemic, everybody was worried, especially in the beginning. We didn't have a system in place. SAG didn't have a system, so we didn't know. But we know there were a couple, they could be close to each other in intimate scenes. So that, also the story kind of, fit really well in the kind of pandemic production setting. So that was kind of part of it as well.
Yeah, it was tough back then. Yeah, it was tough for me to get like Shaun and Daniel to even kiss me. But
Allie, we recorded.
We've watching. If Allie's house looks familiar, it's because we shot a lot of the Leo.
There you go. There's where Leo was laying down.
Yeah.
So Lauren, once you got the mission to write this script, how long from the time that you started till the time that you had a draft that was ready to be greenlit?
So the draft that was technically greenlit, we finished in about, I want to say 8 days.
Oh my gosh.
We finished the first draft. But that was just the first draft. The original concept had a completely new ending. Wine it wasn't even part of the script. And then, then bringing it to the team, working through it with the team, we had about 5 drafts later. Shaun and I were even rewriting scenes in the hotel 2 days before we were on set, to film. So from the time it was greenlit to the time we actually shot, I think there were 5 drafts, and we were constantly working on the story until the day before shooting.
So some of the questions that have been asked are, was any of it based on true life events or your own life, or are there any particular reasons you chose the themes and characters you did?
Well, in the beginning of the movie, you see no. Not for me, real life, no.
No, I love animals. If I had my way, I would live in Los Angeles, but it would be a farm. I love horses, and I love that lifestyle. So, and I love movies about that place, that world. So I was excited to write a Christmas movie in that setting. I thought it was perfect, and Allie has amazing connections to all of these gorgeous locations in Petaluma. So we were writing with locations already in mind.
Location.
Yes.
So once you guys had the script, once you had the themes, the next step typically would be going into pre-production. But because this is 2020, you had a little extra special something in there where you had to deal with COVID and the safety protocols. And since this film was one of the first in production in the state, that was the Wild West. Does somebody want to talk a little bit about that process of how you guys settled on the protocols we implemented, and any concerns you had with respect to how that would affect production?
Yeah, I think we were definitely Hollywood's guinea pig. We were one of the first productions to actually start and wrap. But I think Daniel should talk about
Daniel,
the intricacies of that, because he was the one on the phone with SAG for hours and hours.
Yeah, I think from the start, even before we even jumped into the union element, just working on the collaborating was really just a whole new world. We were just getting used to working on Zoom, which was kind of our first experience in pre-production, trying to do everything digitally from payroll, this kind of stuff. So just even setting everything up was like a crazy new experience that, we were kind of working through. So all the new, the meetings we had, the pre-production meetings. And then when we jumped into the logistics of testing and all that, that's where kind of shit hit the fan, in the sense that, nobody knew, like from the unions really didn't know at that point when we got started. They didn't really know, they didn't have protocols in place that now we do, even the testing 3 times a week, the kind of tests. So We
Yeah, I remember. Tell them about the test. Like, we did the first round of tests, and then talk about that. Like,
yeah, well,
all
yeah,
got messed up.
I mean, the biggest hurdle amongst many, the biggest one was obviously testing and make sure everybody was safe. And what happened is we had, you know, our tests were the antigen tests set up, and the unions or no one really had said these are not okay. And we were trying to figure out what these tests were and blah, blah, blah. So we had this whole system set up. In pre-production, we were testing people with the antigen test. And, you know, SAG was like, okay, this is great. We went through, you know, with SAG, we had a big meeting, myself and Allie and our SAG reps. And they were like, you know, your plan looks great. But then 2 days, you know, before production started, we got a call and say, your tests are actually not approved. You know, you need to take actually the swab test and all that. And so this was a huge deal because we had to, you know, find a new vendor and get everyone tested and set everything up. And it was a mess. It was really, really stressful because 2 days before production, we didn't know if we could start. So we, you know, myself, Allie, we were a little bit in panic. We had everything set up. We had everyone in hotels ready to go, but our tests weren't good. And I mean, this is the craziest story. Allie, I mean, you can tell a little bit, but Allie ran, I mean, he drove, but to one of those testing sites, you know, the ones, the drive-through ones. And he walked up to the nurses and said, hey, I need a hand. You know, Allie, you want to tell the story?
Yeah,
I didn't know this, Allie.
Yeah, right.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, when the test got switched from the original one that was approved, the blood prick one, to a, whatever they call it, the swab one, Daniel got panicked, and Daniel never gets panicked. So I was like, oh shit. And I was greasy working on the ranch. I drove up to the college that had the, you know, drive through, whatever. And I walk in the building and they're staring at me like, what the heck? And I look down, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not in a suit. I look like a mess. I'm greasy. And I just stared around, and like one of the girls was really nice. And I said, I know it's going to sound totally weird, but like, I need to hire somebody right now. You guys have to help me. I'm doing a movie. And they all looked at me like I had two heads. But the one girl was like, yeah, here's the phone number, call this number and we'll do it. And that was it. That service helped us, you know, through the whole.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea that was happening. That's so
Once
funny.
in a while, I'll do something outside of the craft service catering.
Well, let's jump ahead to the point where Shaun joins the merry band of gypsies. And so Shaun, talk about, you know, your first steps with the production, and then let's segue into casting the other wonderful characters who were on board. For instance, a question I have is, was Leo written for Allie, you know, from the outset, or did you guys, you know, what was the dynamic there?
Well, so I of course, Allie and Lauren, they both contacted me asking if I would want to direct a Christmas movie. And, you know, we've spoken about this before on interviews, Brad, you and I. It was really about the people are always the most important part of any project to me. Obviously, you've got to have a good script. A good script is paramount, but it's about the people. And it was Allie and Lauren and Josh. I was on board from the get-go. So that's kind of how it started. And we had all done a movie together prior, which was Roped. And that's where they met and fell in love. For people that don't know this story yet, but we cast them, and I guess you could say ESX was the matchmakers for them.
Yep.
And they fell in love and got married, and so now flash forward a couple years from that project, and this new one presented itself. And so right off the bat, I was on board because it was this group of people, and all the filmmakers from we've done lots of movies together, so the crew as well.
Well, you do know if you take ESX and just arrange the letters in a different, you know, order.
No. This guy over here. I did make a rap about that once. But anyways, luckily, then I got to read the first early draft of the script, and I was like, oh, this is really great. I love the characters, and that's kind of what led into what your second part of that question, which was the casting. And yeah, I think early on we talked about it being Allie. I don't know if it was from day one, but it was definitely super early talks that this character would be for Allie, and we knew he would have a lot of fun with it, and could bring a lot of his charm and all the things that make Allie so awesome into the role. and of course there's things that aren't Allie, but that's the fun of acting. You get to play somebody different. So, but yeah, we knew pretty early on that we wanted Allie to do it. But there was a point actually in which Allie thought he might not be able to do it. So we were then trying to think, well, who else could we get to play this?
That was hard. When
but
all of a sudden Allie might not have been Leo, we were like, what?
We're like, what? No, what do we do?
It only came when like everybody, like the creators and the writers and the director and all this stuff, said you're going to do a really bad job. We don't want you to do it.
No, that's not true. That's so not true.
Okay, fine. They always say, you're the producer. You just put yourself in your own movies. You stink. Whatever.
No, we knew he was going to be really great. And if anybody, if you guys haven't seen Bennett's War yet, you got to see Allie in that one too. He's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Movie. So we all knew he was going to bring it from the get-go. So yes, and then it was Lauren and Josh started talking about David Del Rio to play Manny opposite him, and I myself loved the idea right away because of seeing his other work and like Beauty and the Baker, or is it Baker and the Beauty? I always get it backwards.
Baker and the Beauty. Baker and the Beauty.
Baker and the Beauty. Yeah, I loved him on that show, and so we were all kind of right away going, "Oh, that'd be so awesome to get him," but we didn't know if we could. And then one of our co-producers, George Costuros, he knew him, right? Isn't that how it went?
Yes, they were friends. So yeah, Josh
they were friends. So he's like, "Oh, I'll call him," and we're like, "No way!" So that was a nice serendipitous moment there, and then Amanda Detmer had been in one of our other movies before, and she happens to be. Her family knows my family, and we both are from the same hometown. So that's really kind of how her name got thrown into the hat. And of course, we considered a bunch of people, but luckily Amanda was available, and I knew she would knock it out of the park. And I really think her performance is so genuine and moving. Her opposite Lauren, the scenes with them together, it gets me every time. It got me filming it. I cried. If you guys remember, I cried on set like a big baby, and then editing it with Brett. Or
no?
The what?
Was that how much? Is that after we told you how much you're getting paid?
Yeah, that was on top of it. Yeah, that. And then when I was editing, I realized how much I was getting paid, and so I cried then as well. Wait, Brett, you didn't get paid? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, the editing machine. That was what I got.
Yeah. So I cried during the editing, and then I cried the first time I officially watched it on Netflix. I cried again. It just was one of those very touching, moving things, and I think that's why so many are connecting with it, because it has this deeper meaning and heart, and then also the humor that then helps balance that out between Allie's character and David Del Rio's character, Leo and Manny. I think we kind of cover the spectrum of emotions with this movie.
Shaun, talk a little bit about Natalia Mann. Sometimes it's really challenging to find, especially talented young actresses. She just really was amazing.
Oh, she was.
So this is so good, and this is another one of those cool serendipitous connections. Was it also George's?
It was.
Shared a same.
Yeah.
Shared a manager or agent.
Agent, I think, or something. Yeah.
Same agent as George, who's one of our co-producers, and so again, we were considering other really awesome young actresses as well, but it just ended up working out there. And I had seen. I'm trying to remember I watched her in another movie, and so I knew she was going to be really good. I'm trying to remember what that movie was, but.
I watched her in a show. I forget what show it was, but once I saw her demo reel.
Oh, maybe it was a show too. I think I saw her on.
It was really, really strong, and
Yeah. So yeah, we knew she was going to be great, and then she came and she was obviously adorable, and I love the scenes with the three of you, with Lauren, Josh, and her. Like the eating the fruit by the foots and all that kind of stuff. I really love those scenes.
Strike.
Long stripes. By the foot.
Brad, to give you an idea, that's kind of how we casted the whole movie. I mean, I don't suggest it for anyone in general, but because it was so small and intimate, and we needed to keep it small, both crew and cast, because of the kind of situation, we didn't really have a casting director on this.
We didn't have casting sessions.
So most of the cast were, obviously most of the cast were like close friends, like, Shaun just mentioned, Amanda, a girl who plays Liz, who's, my girlfriend, and, she's worked for ESX for many years. So it was like a mix of, friends and people we knew were perfect for the role, and as well as.
Where's Liz? Let's see Liz.
I know she's
Where's
hiding somewhere.
Where is she?
She just came back from work. She doesn't want to make an appearance.
One of the things that really impresses me about this movie, especially in the aftermath of, the fact that now it's sitting at, the seventh day going strong at #1, is, when I talk to friends, and this is something I heard even when we were doing the test screenings, but now I'm hearing it in the public, that the cast is so strong that they each kind of have their own fan club. I mean, and I honestly think that there's going to be some protest demanding a Leo and Manny spinoff, because
Yeah, it's been such a shock that it's done so well. And you're right, there are so many people that love Leo and Manny. There are so many people that love, Joseph and Callie. People love Amanda, and I'm just so excited. If someone were to tell us, or if someone would have told us, when we were shooting the movie, that it would be #1 right now, I would have laughed at them. I would have been like, "Are you kidding?
Totally, yeah.
Hey, no way."
John, you mentioned to me that with David Del Rio, you guys put a lot of work into his character, just in terms of how he was portrayed, because you didn't want him to be like a stereotypical farm worker, and then also with his sense of humor, you let him kind of run with that, and I know it was interesting, because in some of the scenes he was riffing, and we were all in stitches, and I hope that people can see those outtakes, but you weren't able to use him in the edit because it didn't fit the tone of the film. But talk a little bit about how you let him run with that character.
Well, yeah, I think that was a discussion. Obviously, Lauren is such an awesome writer, and so we were talking about that character a lot, because obviously we didn't want to play into stereotypes or anything like that. Wanted him just to be this fully, alive, fleshed out human. And luckily, David's such a great actor. He just embodied this character and right away, which we knew he was going to bring what he does to this character. That's part of why we wanted to cast him. And he's one of those improvisational kind of geniuses, to where you can write a ton of really great things, but sometimes you just got to let somebody like that kind of go and find this stuff. So I tried to let him do that when we could, when I have the time to get one more take. I was constantly looking over at my first AD, Marco, and I'm like, do I have time for one more? I felt like a little kid asking permission. Can I have one more? And then let him kind of do his thing. And it was always a blast to see that. And yes, there's some great outtakes and
the bloopers.
Oh yeah, the bloopers, and we were laughing so hard sometimes that it made it hard to keep on track. And then it also made it hard in the edit. I know Brett and I kept going back and forth, like, which joke should we use? There's 7 of them to choose from. So it was very interesting.
So let's jump ahead now to shoot day 1. And I'll just say really quickly that when we were all together, we all came into town early. We got COVID tested, and then they tested us prior to the shoot. Everybody was in a hotel. We were mostly on one floor of the hotel, so we weren't mingling with the other guests. And when we would do pre-production meetings, even though we were all in the hotel, we didn't get in a conference room. We were all just like this. We were all sitting on Zoom in our respective rooms, except for Natalia, who was still, on the other coast.
Yeah.
But we jump ahead, first day on set. Does somebody want to talk about, how that began and what that looked like in terms of what were we doing for COVID safety?
Well,
go ahead, Lauren. You talk a little bit. I can add on.
Well, first day on set was so surreal. I mean, it was the first time that I actually saw words that I have written on a set come to life. So that was I'll never forget the first day on set of Callie Christmas. It was just so special. But when it comes to COVID, we had a long line of cars that would come in, and we got our temperature checked when we arrived at set, and then our temperature checked on the way home. That was really awesome. And we, you know, our meals that we had were all 6 feet apart. It was very different than usual, because usually
And all like prepackaged.
prepackaged. I don't know, guys. What else was different?
I mean,
First day. What did we shoot first day? I don't remember.
The trailer up on the hill.
Yeah,
with
it was
all
a
the people.
trailer with Josh. Yeah, with
At the
right up
dairy.
the trail. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
there was
Yeah, it was kind of tough because it was one of the smallest spaces we had to film in. So we were kind of learning, you know, to work in a COVID environment where we were like in the smallest space. But I think the biggest thing going back is really the first thing was everyone wearing masks, you know, 24/7 on set, and, you know, the keeping the distance and having a person in charge. We have our COVID, you know, safety manager.
COVID Matt.
And keeping everyone apart. And so, I mean, it was definitely a very kind of surreal and, you know, odd experience. And, you know, talking a little bit about like, you know, COVID supervisor, I mean, it was really interesting. Now, he's actually a successful like COVID supervisor requested by many commercials and big shoots in the Bay Area. But, you know, when I hired him, he was the husband of a nurse that's worked with us on a previous project. And Allie was like, you know, you should give him a ring. I think he'd be a perfect you know, fit. And I gave him a ring, and he seemed like a, you know, a great guy, and he had a, you know, experience in law enforcement and stuff like that. And, you know, we hired him. And so even just, and he was amazing. Again, he learned, we all learned as we went, but, you know, having someone in charge and kind of figuring out that role of COVID safety supervisor, all the different rules, like they were saying, sitting apart, you know, prepackaged food, wearing masks, try to like, you know, keep exits and entrances, you know, separate so you could, you know, in the same rooms, and as well as, so all these.
and only a certain amount of people inside. You know, if we were in that small space, there could only be a certain amount. And by the way, Matt was on top of it. I mean, he really was like, you know, he was constantly making sure we weren't getting too close. And if our mask slipped below our nose, Matt would be there. I mean, every single time I'd be like, I'd go up to like adjust my mask, and if it would move, I'd look to my left, and there he was. He's like, mask. I'm like, okay, shoot. So he was really on it, but he did it in a very nice way and made sure to keep us all in check, you know.
And the other big thing, Brad, before I forget, it was, I think, a very important element was of learning how to work is we had to have different departments work at different times.
Yeah.
So that, which is a, you know, kind of new process. You know, we're used to kind of everyone, you know, you cut and everybody kind of jumps in and tries to do their job more or less. I mean, ideally that's not the scenario, but that's kind of what happens. But we were really strict about having, you know, our department go in and redress, and then, you know, the grips, you know, and electricians come in and light. And, you know, and we would, you know, avoid blocking with the rest of the just very good blocking. Yeah. Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Then my computer froze. I didn't know you were still talking.
No, but that's about it. I'm just saying that was a big learning curve, and it was, you know, obviously delayed the shooting in many cases. So
I do want to say one thing about that though that helped was actually, Brad, your genius with setting up the lights. So Brad came up with a plan to try and light whenever we were interior, light from the outside. That way, the grip and electric could still do adjustments without having to have the actors leave set. And of course, we still had those moments, but it helped minimize them. And he had all the lights on; they were all wireless, and so they were all controlled by like iPads and things. And that really helped, you know, save some of that time that we lost. Because again, Daniel's completely correct. We lost, you know, lots of time. Every day we were losing hours just because of these new things. But of course, as the production went on, everybody got into the flow, into the groove, and we all understood exactly how to make it work. And so at least we became more efficient in that time.
In addition, Brad had the most memorable mask. So there's definitely you knew where he was. He had this awesome cat mask. And, you know, and there are definitely pluses. Everybody's wearing masks is weird. You couldn't really tell what people look like, what they're saying. You know, I'd be like sticking my tongue out at somebody that wouldn't know. You could make faces at them. It was pretty cool. You know, food stuck in your teeth, nobody would know. You know, it's all good.
You know what, though? When you were flipping people off, we still could tell that. I don't know.
I know. I don't have the hand mask yet. I didn't have a glove.
My favorite.
The wireless lights that Shaun was talking
Like
about.
a mitten. You got to wear a mitten next time.
That Shaun was talking about are called Astera Titans, and they're an LED technology. They're a tube, and they're an RGB technology, which means that you can dial in any color you want, and you can also do effects on those lights. You can have them do a flicker like a TV light or a flicker like a firelight. The scene where Manny and Joseph and Leo are sitting around that little fire outside the house, most of the light on their faces came from those Astera Titans. It wasn't the light coming out of the fire. And so that flicker, that orange flicker, was those Titans. And those Titans can do other things. They can do cop lights where half will blink red, half will blink blue. You can do strobe and lightning effects. They're really, really incredible lights. They're expensive. They're little tubes. They don't look like much. They're a little tube with an LED readout. But a kit of 4 tubes is about $4,000 or $5,000.
Wow.
But they're just amazing because they're wireless. You can control them with an app on your phone. You can dial in the colors, and the batteries just last forever. The scene in the bar is lit 90% by Astera Titans. All those blue lights are Astera Titans. The lights that we had on Josh and Lauren's face when they first talk across the bar, those are Astera Titans. Just really incredible lights, and they made it possible for us to light that bar in the time that we had, because once upon a time you would have had to run power cables, and that would have meant that as those lights went around the perimeter of the bar, I would have also been slinging and fixing cables up into that ceiling, and we didn't. We just put little zip ties, put them around the edges, and those batteries literally lasted all day.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Amazing.
Amazing.
When we started, I had not used Titans. I hadn't put that much of a demand on them ever before. And so between takes, I was having them turned off. But then our gaffer, Callum, said, you don't need to do that. They'll last. And I said, okay, I'll leave them on as long as you promise to charge them at lunch.
Yeah.
Your team.
I don't, we didn't even necessarily need to do that, but those were just amazing lights. Josh, how about you tell us a little bit about how was it different in terms of makeup and wardrobe on this shoot as opposed to the way it usually is?
This is funny.
Wardrobe. I don't know if wardrobe. I mean, did wardrobe change all that much?
Well, this last looks was a little different, I think.
Yeah.
Nobody could fly in for last look.
So yeah, there was a lot less, virtually none communication the second you were on set doing the take. So when you're down in village, you can get touched up by or a wardrobe can look at you and be like, yeah, you're in the right outfit, or you're not, or whatever.
Or you need to fix this. There was no touching. Nobody could touch you once you were set.
Yeah, hair and makeup was a lot different because normally when you do a project, but right before the take, both wardrobe and hair and makeup will fly in, and they'll get the shine off your face. Or on the other project I work on, when you wear masks, you get really shiny, especially on your nose area. And so the second you pull off nose, they run in and they'll make sure that's covered up. On Callie Christmas, we couldn't do that because it was so. We were one of the first projects back, so it was just we had to be extra cautious.
No touch-ups allowed.
But when we were doing makeup,
but you had your own little makeup kits, right?
We had our own makeup kits, personal. So basically, we'd go in the morning to get our initial makeup on by a makeup artist, and they would be in full-blown hazmat suits, garbage bags, masks, shields. They were in like 3 different layers.
Gloves.
And,
but explain why is that? Why did they have to be in that?
COVID. No.
Well, but I mean, because they're actually touching you.
Yeah, right? They're all up in your business. About this far for 15 minutes. For Allie, it was about 55. That's the best they could do, and but yeah, no. So they gave us little pencil cases that. I don't know. That's a guy term, I guess.
We had
for girls,
our own,
it's probably a makeup kit, but for a dude, it's like, oh, you carried this in 3rd grade.
Yeah. Our own makeup with powder. I had, eyeliner. I had everything in there, and we did our own touch-ups. and watching
Which was convenient.
watching the boys try and put cover up under their eyes was really,
You got pretty
really
good.
So we've got about 20 minutes left with Shaun and Allie, and here's what I'd like to do. I'd like each one of us to talk about our favorite scene in the movie. And if somebody picks your favorite scene before you, then you got to pick your second favorite scene. And
okay.
Shaun and Allie have split first. Let's start with them.
Oh, Allie, you want to go first?
No.
For me, it's so hard to pick a favorite scene. I mean, there's the emotional stuff, and then there's the funny stuff, and everything in between. What's up?
Just pick the one you want to talk about. It doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite scene, but which one would you like to talk about?
Oh, God, I want to talk about two.
Okay, you're the director. You get two.
Well, I just want to say,
Shaun, your hair looks great.
no.
Yeah, Shaun, you look like Tom Cruise's agent from like 1998.
Well, maybe I am. Or wait, did I travel back in time? I think I've got to talk about the scene with Amanda and Lauren when they're in the car post-hospital. I just think there's something so raw and powerful in that scene, and it just feels 100% real to me. And Lauren just absolutely smashes that scene. I mean, the tears that were coming out were so powerful. And Amanda was literally wiping away tears and snot from Lauren's face in that scene. I mean, it was just amazing. And I remember worrying about technical things while we were shooting it because there was loud cars going by, and I was worried it was not that I cared about it messing up the sound for us, even though I know Ray, our sound guy, was obviously worried about that. But I didn't want anything to break that moment that was happening between them. And what was so amazing about both of them is they were so in that moment that when we move all the cameras and we go to the other side, I started worrying, it's gonna, the momentum of what just happened is not gonna be there anymore. But that is not, I mean, and that happens. It happens a lot, but not in this case. When we turned around to the other side, the performances were there 100% still. And it's one of my favorite scenes to have witnessed live ever.
Shaun.
And
Shaun, that's actually the scene I was thinking of too.
Yeah, I mean, it's so beautiful. And
I gotta say, they did very few takes, and it was amazing. Like,
yeah. I mean,
good job.
It was just incredible. And I think,
well, you know, I was
gosh.
standing right there, and I had to keep kind of backing away from the truck because it was so intense being that close to that moment. I felt like the worst kind of a voyeur, you know, and I felt I had to step back and give them their privacy, even though I know they're acting, but it's like, oh my God.
That's how real it was. That's how real it was. And I've spoken with Amanda about that scene, and I did an interview with Amanda on a news program, and she got emotional in that moment just talking about that scene.
Oh.
So it's just amazing how much that affected, and I think it's also affected audience, which is all you can ever hope for, that if you can connect with an audience that way. And I've gotten a bunch of messages with people having similar experiences and have gone through that, and that this movie was cathartic for them in that way. And that's, of course, I couldn't ever be happier about a response than that with anything that I'm involved with, even on a small level or a big level. If we can create something that affects somebody in that way, that's the ultimate gift. That's the ultimate reward for doing this. So, yeah, I mean, that's probably my favorite scene overall in the movie. There's so many more else that I like. I love the motorcycle scene because I'm a motorcycle guy, and just seeing how earnest Josh was as Joseph in that moment with taking something from her past and recreating it. And then almost feeling bad that he did it without asking. There's just something in that moment that's so genuine as well that I absolutely love. And then seeing the pure joy on Lauren's face while riding the motorcycle. And again, I think it was just real. I think they were having fun.
Oh, yeah.
They were on a 1948 panhead Harley in the middle of the night, just, you know, out on the street, we were filming this thing, like, and again, it's one of those moments where you just pinch yourself going, in such a crazy, difficult year, that's been so hard on literally everybody, we were getting to create something and be a part of something, and it really felt good just to be doing that. And of course, we had no idea that it would find an audience like this, but just the act of creating was such a joyous moment. And so that scene right there, and there is kind of a funny story about it.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, I just real quick too that we did not shoot that scene during our principal photography schedule. That and some of the other scenes, we all nicked during production. And Shaun and I actually went out on our personal time a few times, and I don't know if that was a scheduled day or personal time, but I mean, it really all just kind of blended together for me. But we went. That was totally guerrilla. I think that was Shaun driving the truck and me hanging out the window with a camera.
Hey, just so we clarify, I'm a stunt driver, and I was making sure you were safe. I just want to, and everybody was safe. I just want to put that out there. But yeah, no, it was
isolated street, not that isolated.
Yeah. Well, here's the best part about that scene is we were cleared to do it and everything, but just happened to in that moment. A police officer drove by because maybe there were some complaints or something, I don't know. But we all thought, oh no, we're allowed to be here, but now they thought we were street racing is what it was.
Yeah, someone called the cops.
And thinking that we were street racing.
Yeah.
Which was so funny because you guys were going about 10 miles an hour.
With the 1930s.
With the 40s motorcycle. But of course, within minutes, it was all cleared up, and that was great. And we were allowed to continue filming, and so we
did have our throats for a few minutes because we didn't.
Yeah, we did.
All we saw was the red and blue lights.
Yeah.
I was so scared, but it was fun.
Yeah.
And
never forget that moment.
Was there another scene you wanted to talk about, Shaun?
Oh my gosh, there's. I think I'm going to steal everybody's scenes, but it's the spa day with Leo and Manny.
Stealing all of our scenes. Shut up, Shaun.
I know. Okay, I'll be quiet. I'll let you guys do it. I don't want to take all the scenes.
I'll tell you my scenes. I thought of one. Like mine isn't one specific scene because one specific scene would definitely be the one with you, Lauren, and Amanda in the car. I mean, that's the heavy, and that's like, that just brings it out for sure. But I like the little bits. I like the one-liners and the zingers and just the little weird things that aren't like just one scene. Like when Josh almost says to Lauren, listen, you don't know me. My name, it's like, if you had one more second to finish that sentence, the movie's different.
Yeah.
Because he was about to tell her who he really is. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to play this game with you then. Let's do this. So that for me, just that little, listen, you don't know who I am. That she stops him and she's that, or Lauren saying those one zinger, like, have you seen what he looks like? He looks like he should be in a soap opera. Like, I fell out of the chair. I'm like, that's funny because he's such an awesome soap star already. Or even Josh, don't look at me.
That's such a great meta joke.
Yeah,
I love that joke.
Or when he says, "Don't look at me" at the bar when I'm in the cowboy.
I love that scene too. I love that scene too.
There's a lot of those zingers make the movie just real for me, So those are not really a scene that I like, but when I've watched it, because I watched it, half. I haven't finished the whole thing yet, but when
Did you finish reading the script yet?
No, that happens on the sequel, so I can tell the people. Read the first one. Okay. This is what's gonna happen.
What was that, Brad?
New pages.
Pages?
Yeah, Lauren's gonna send us some new pages tonight.
Right. Yeah.
New pages play tomorrow in the subject. New pages that play tomorrow.
That's so fun. That is cool about this film, though, that is kind of rare that in the response we've been seeing, so many people are saying like they're laughing their faces off, and then so many people are saying it was super emotional. And it's rare that, if you sit down to watch Legends of the Falls, you're probably not going to be dying, you're laughing the whole time or something. And then, or if you sit down to watch Happy Gilmore, you're not going to be crying too much. And to have a movie where it's like, oh my gosh, that was really funny. And then 20 seconds later, be like, you know, wiping your tears, and then 20 seconds later to be laughing again. It's kind of cool because it doesn't happen too often. And I don't think a lot of that can be planned. I think you just get halfway through the project and things are organically happening, and you kind of look back on it and go, wow, it's cool that happened, even though we weren't ready for, you know, something like that.
I think it might have to do with the real important scenes. The actors are really good and they knew their lines and stuff. And then the comedic scenes, the guys weren't prepared. They didn't know what they're doing. Got all their lines and just improv. I think there's a correlation there. But no, I'm joking. But Josh, what I was going to say is like the response with this movie has been crazy. So for everybody watching this, thank you guys so much for the support. And it goes to show that like there's so many shows on TV right now that really push the envelope, whether it's sexual or drug or dark or this or that. I mean, this is wholesome, family, and it's #1 in the world for over a week now. I think we'll be hanging on for another couple of days. So like, it just goes to show that, you know, I don't think it's like we have to push the envelope. And these are great shows out there. And I'm not saying, but you know, you don't have to do frontal nudity on everything. Trust me, you don't want to see frontal nudity. So, but like, it's like, there's an audience for this. I mean, just look out there and we're, you know, on the reports, we're the #1 movie in the world. I hope I'm not jinxing myself by like a considerable amount across hundreds of countries and territories. So
I've been blown away with all the countries that have tuned into this movie. I mean, countries that don't celebrate Christmas. And you know, I'm like, wow.
It's clean. It's family. It feels good. It's kind of what we've always done. Underdog, diversity, female lead, do the right thing, feel right. I mean, they're not really faith-based. They're faith-friendly, but they're just like, it's cool to see that this movie with this topic,
redemption and heart and redemption.
But it's also,
I mean, it's a clean movie. It's probably one of our cleanest, most family movies.
But it's also not like a Hallmark. Nothing against the Hallmark films, but it's not a Hallmark film in that everything is sappy, and especially the Christmas element is very toned down in this film compared to a lot of Christmas movies. Now, when I've seen it,
almost like it's not a Christmas movie.
Exactly. But it's kind of like real world. It's not like syrupy. There's not red in every scene. It's like real world Christmas, you know, like, so that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of worried at first when we were in development. I kept asking, is this Christmas enough?
Well, that's obviously like the biggest, whatever, you know, people see like great movie, not super Christmas.
But I like it.
In a way, if you kind of what you were saying, if you drop into a real world scenario and it's Christmas time and it's Northern California, like that's what you would be getting. You're talking about Christmas. You're not seeing a lot of snow. If there was a party at the end and someone had fake snow, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like that would be the situation if it was Christmas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of like that it was that way, you know, that it didn't get too over the top with tinsel and mistletoe.
Me too.
And I think it also is what helps separate us. I mean, there is so many of those movies, and yes, we have themes that have been done before a bunch of times and all of that, but I think we did enough things differently that it is kind of at least, you know, separating us a little bit, making us a little bit unique.
And I didn't put in one sleigh bell in the whole score.
Is that challenging?
It's unheard of. It's unheard of for Christmas music.
Yes.
We should ask Brett the question. He's too quiet over there.
Yeah.
Our editor that for you all panelists, are not panelists, but all the viewers, Brett has edited, I think, all but one of our ESX movies, like 15 of them now, 16 of them now, every single one from our first one, including this last series we just did. So,
that's crazy.
Brett, what is your favorite scene? Or what is your favorite, you know?
My favorite scene would be any scene that Lauren had a hat on or her hair was tied back.
Every scene.
For continuity's sake.
Continuity.
For continuity.
Windy, and her hair kept blowing.
It was so windy.
I remember.
Yeah.
That's
You're
funny.
right.
That's funny, yeah. What an editor response, really.
It's such an editor's response.
Well, because she'd be getting in a groove, and then you know, she's got to pull the hair that's out of her in her mouth, or it's covering her eyes, and then Shaun was like, I can hear him off screen say, you know, your hair, and then she reset. And it would match the take from before, so I'm like,
And I get mad. I'd be like, ugh.
Yeah.
When we were out by the, I guess maybe, Brett, this is a kind of a good question to answer. Would you rather it be just really windy, where stuff is just kind of whipping around, or just a little bit windy, where it does exactly what you're talking about, where it kind of just, now you can really tell it doesn't match?
Yeah, I guess whatever allows us not to worry about continuity as much, because I hate having to edit something because it doesn't match. I'd rather focus on the emotion of what's happening in the scene. But if something doesn't match from take to take, it's going to throw the audience out. And so you can't, Allie's wounded. He'll catch stuff and he'll just say, fix that.
It's like, we can't.
Yeah, make it work.
Hey guys, I had a question real quick for the panelists here. There's 7 screens. I think in the sequel we found our Santa Claus.
Oh my gosh, Brad.
Notice one of us looks a little more like Santa Claus than maybe they previously did. And
Is that going to be his cameo?
he's even got a jolly laugh going on there.
That would be brilliant.
It's happening.
And I
It's
gotta be in the
we do a sequel.
But guys,
Brad, now you have to.
I have to go, so I'm going to say bye to everybody. Thank you all. If there's questions or whatever, Brad, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. Oh my God, look at all these chats. There's questions.
Yeah.
Oh, I noticed this. So yeah, we'll catch up that. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Allie.
Bye.
Enjoy your spa.
How are you looking, Shaun?
I've still got a couple minutes. I got about 5 more minutes or so.
Well, how about we hand it to you to do a wrap up? Why don't you, whatever closing remarks you have?
I just would, love to say, or if there's any questions to answer, if you guys see any that I can answer, I would gladly answer them. But I would just love to say thanks so much to anybody that has taken the time to watch our little movie and for all the support that we've got. And it's really overwhelming support. Obviously social media and all of that. It's kind of unlike anything I've ever experienced. And I think I'm not alone in this. I think we've all kind of been sharing this kind of amazing outpouring of love and support for this film. And obviously the audience is the reason why it went to #1 in the world. And we were #1, I think 4 or 5 days in the US at the top. We're still in like 1 or 2, I think. 2 or 3 right now in the US. And then we're #1 overall in the world, which is just mind-boggling. And it's very surreal. And I couldn't be happier at just the response from that it found a home, that it found an audience. And that's what you want as creators, when you're storytellers like we all are. I think your greatest dream is for it to find an audience, right? I mean, that is the ultimate goal. And of course, if it can affect somebody in a positive way, that's the icing on the cake. But just wanted to say thank you to the people out there that have supported this film and the other films that we've created. ESX has been at it for a while now, and I think they've got 15 or 16 films, Brett, a TV show in the works.
Yeah, we're cutting a series right now. But yeah.
How many films is it? Is it 16?
I've lost track, dude.
I think it's 16.
Yeah, amazing.
Right.
Me and Brett skipped a few, but yeah, it's about 15, 16. I think original, yeah.
So anyways, before I go, is there any questions in the Q&A stuff, Brad?
If anybody's got a question that they want to pop in the chat box, do it now. I've got one that was sent to me before it was sent over the weekend from Peggy Glenn, who's a great actor. She plays Granny Pottymouth, the character who you may have seen. She did a turducken, a vegan turducken spoof, which is just to die for. Anyway, her question is this. One shot in particular stands out to me, cementing the camera's POV as a character. The road level shot of the 2 trucks approaching each other on a 1-lane farm driveway when the 2 dudes are going to face off near the end of the movie. Talk about deciding on that angle. Ahead of time, spontaneous.
Yeah, so we did talk about that. Brad and I kind of designed it to be that way. And it was again, it was, we had it throughout this movie, we had that kind of voyeuristic angle, just like you're talking about. It's, I don't know what we, joked, it's the cricket cam or something like that. It's kind of almost seeing like these moments that maybe you're not supposed to see or have witnessed. And I think some of the stuff at the graveyard, you get that similar feeling of, I'm seeing this person in this very intimate moment. And that scene was obviously a very highly emotional scene. And so I don't know the exact like reasoning why, but I know we both kind of wanted to have that feeling of seeing these two vehicles come together like that, and obviously representing the kind of energies that were about to clash. And there's also some interesting moments in there. If you look over at Leo's character, in the way he's observing that moment, I think is also very poignant. And I'm glad that made it into the edit. So thank you, Brett. Yeah, that was a very interesting scene to kind of think about how we were going to cover it.
There's one more question for you, and it's one that you are uniquely qualified to answer. And can you talk about the opening scene with the calf birth? And if you've got a second to indulge me before you talk about it, I would love to hear how Lauren thought we were going to pull that off when she wrote it.
Okay, Lauren, tell us.
I had absolutely no idea how you guys would do that. I think I was asked to take it out, but with Dan, you asked me to take it out so many times, and I kept saying no. But we're gonna
and me. Remember, I said no. We're gonna do it. We're gonna figure it out because it's such a good moment.
You were my biggest supporter in all of these things that people were like, we can't do this on this budget. You were like, yes, we can. Like, the director says we can.
And I said, and then you're going to do it then. And Shaun,
which is what happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it was interesting.
I've had people seriously ask me how we managed to shoot a real cow birth.
Same.
Yeah, lots of people. Yeah, lots of people thought we did it for real, and the testament goes to Brad as well, because he has a strong VFX background, as I do myself. So our discussions early on, we both kind of got on board with the same idea. We were going to almost do an old school technique in a split screen, which basically we shot a plate with the real mama cow, and we shot that plate and let it run for like a minute long to get different reactions from the cow. And we also had Lauren in there next to the cow for part of it. And then we shot the second piece of it, which was at the beginning, Lauren holding the legs and giving them to Josh, and then Josh trying to pull the baby calf out. And the legs were fake, of course. It was actually half a baby cow. And on the other half of that baby cow was our awesome art department and production designers. And that team had set this whole thing up. They had it on like a stand, and so it could rotate, and they could kind of be giving resistance to Lauren and Josh. But if you saw the behind the scenes of this, it's the funniest thing you've ever seen. And we had Michael Cooper and Pino was working. He was the calf animatronic animator, or whatever you want to call it. He was the puppeteer. That's what I'll say it was. And but yes, if you saw that. The raw footage of that, you would laugh. But of course, it's all about how do we pull that illusion off, and with the visual effects elements of it, and rotoscoping and blending things. And I added even more goop. There was so much goop in there, but guess what? I added even more goop. And then with the beautiful sound design and editing, it helped sell the illusion, the best that at least I knew how to do it.
And that's another thing. Talk about how you were just playing around. You did a temp effect. How did that end up?
I did.
The final.
Well, so I did the temp. I knew I could do the full shot, but I was like, hey, I'll just temp it together and see what everybody thinks. And the response was so good. They were like, you should finish it and do the thing. So that's what ended up happening was and even Daniel, like he was talking about originally, he's like, I think you're going to have to do this shot. he was pushing it onto me anyway. So
yeah, you wore many hats in this one, didn't you?
Yeah.
You were so proud of that. You were so proud of that scene. It was the first scene that you sent to me.
It was.
And I was like, oh boy, what are we doing here? What are we getting into?
Well, I wanted to see what you were going to do with the score for that. To work around all the juicy sounds.
One thing about doing a split screen, for those of you who don't know, is a critical key to making that work is locking the camera and not moving it between the two halves, because if you move it, you're going to create a headache for somebody trying to match it up. But if you don't move it, the alignment stays precise, and so then you can go in and split it however you want. And
sometimes if it moves off axis, you might have to start over, because then it just really won't work. So yeah, the key is locking it off. And there's so many people kind of moving around doing the things that we had to kind of watch that tripod like hawks. We're like, nobody touch the camera because we didn't want it to get bumped.
The other thing I want to point out about that scene, and maybe our last thing before Shaun leaves, he and Brett can talk a little bit about this. But the other thing I want to point out about that scene is, just like with a good magic trick, we used a lot of misdirection in that scene. There's very little VFX in that scene. There's really just that one shot that is the.
Well, it's actually 3 total shots, but they're very kind of short.
Right.
You know, it's one angle, and then one that's slightly tighter.
Yeah.
You know.
And then we go to the shot of Josh holding the calf. But the thing that really sets it, the thing that really sells that scene, is the actors' reactions. You know, all 4 of them, or 3 of them. It's Callie, Joseph, and what's the little girl's name?
Natalia.
Natalia.
Hannah is the character, yeah. But wait, hey, there is 4 because the cow.
The cow. But we didn't from the cow.
Yeah.
Could you and Brett do a little tag team about how y'all sold that with the reactions being, you know, such a wonderful misdirection?
Yeah, well, I think it's exactly what you said. It was in the performances. Josh's disgust was so great, and kind of being, you know, I think it helped. I think it helped that it was really slimy and gross. So I think that probably helped with everybody's kind of reaction to it. But no, I think it's, and actually Callie didn't react to it. It's like so blasé to her. So good on her for being covered in slime and pretending like it was no big deal.
Hated that.
And I think I think it really was just great performances, and of course Hannah she was enjoying the whole show. Like you could tell right from the get-go, she's just enjoying this whole situation. So I think her joy, his disgust, and Callie's determination is what helped sell that scene. Brett, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, 50% of your experience when watching a movie is sound. So I think the sound design really helps sell the moment. And that one visual effects shot where you see what's happening, that just tells everyone, this is the moment. And then when you do it in close-up coverage, your brain just accepts that that's still happening. So it's a wonderful scene. And I was a little like, what am I going to do with this? When the footage came in, I was like, what is this?
That's what I always have. Like, Brad calls me, it's like, what are we going to do with this?
Luckily I had a path in my brain, so I just downloaded it to Brett. I said, here's how we can make it work.
Yeah, no, you had full control of that scene, because I was a little lost.
I can imagine just not knowing how that scene was shot and then getting the footage. You'd be like, what? I don't understand,
Yeah.
Shaun, do you want to deploy your parachute?
Yeah, I do got to go. I'm going to be late. But I enjoyed this very much. Thank you to everybody who came on and watched it, and of course everybody that participated. It was a joy making this movie, even during a difficult time. I think I speak for myself. I had a tremendously amazing time being a part of making a Callie Christmas, and thank you guys. Just thank you
so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Love you.
Bye.
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 So let me quickly map out my vision for the rest of what we'll talk about. What I'd like to focus on before we hand it back to letting people talk about the scenes is I want to have Lauren and Josh talk about that calf scene, because that's the first scene where their characters meet. And
Yeah.
we'll do that. We'll finish the scenes. We'll do a little bit where we talk about post, and we can, give the floor to Jamie and Brett. And then if we have any time left over, we'll do some Q&A. I don't have to go anywhere. If you guys do, great. If you want to stick around, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But for right now, Lauren and Josh, how about you talk about that scene where your characters first meet? And a little subtext that I'll ask as a question, how much of your first meeting did you put into that?
So Josh and I's first meeting was because when I first met Josh, I was late to Warner Brothers for my chemistry read because
Wait,
I couldn't figure
I
out.
think we're talking about this.
I know, but I'm relating it to how I thought about the scene.
Oh.
So I couldn't figure out where to park and how to get there, and it was just I was really flustered. And then I met Josh, and I was like, "Hi!" Like it was which I always thought would be a perfect meet cute in a romance movie where somebody is super late to a situation. It's like, I'm finally here. We've all been there before where we're going to something really important, yet we're 5 minutes late and it's just a panic. Don't recommend that, but it makes for a cute moment in film. So I was thinking, how can I, use that as an introduction for Callie and Joseph? And I was just thinking, what could Joseph come up on, on a farm that would just throw him completely for a loop? And I thought a horse birth, like a baby horse or something. And then I was like, oh my gosh, a cow, it's perfect. So that's how it's funny that you say that, because that is how I thought of the scene in the first place, which was how Josh and I met. Was really trying to rack my brain on how to use that energy. And then, what would throw Josh's character so much so that he wouldn't introduce himself right away. And it would have to be something crazy like that. So that was that. And, we got shot down a lot because it was, everyone was afraid that it was going to be hard to shoot, but we made it happen. And that goop was very gross. It was actually funny. Anywhere the goop was on our bodies, we got sunburned because it attracted the sun. And makeup was having to cover sunburns on us.
We got halfway through it and then broke for lunch one day, and it's sticky and crusted.
Through
and
lunch,
hard.
we had to keep it on us while we were at lunch, and it was just we got sunburned. It was very funny.
You want to talk about, from an actor's point of view, each of your perspectives playing that moment, that first awkward meeting?
Yes, Callie was expecting a new ranch hand to show up to the farm. So when Josh's character came up, my character does not need help. She wants nothing to do with a new ranch hand. And so I really wanted to make sure I projected that onto whoever this person was that was going to be this help to me that I didn't need. So that was really important to convey. And then I think Josh did a great job of being.
I think Joseph, with how his life has gone and how kind of fortunate he was, and doesn't really take authority too serious, and I think he got himself into a situation where he's got a very what the hell mentality, and so he's like, sure, he kind of walks up, he hears this cow, has no idea what's going on. Does not want to be in this situation. He probably hasn't, put his own shoes away in his entire life, let alone pulled a cat, done something extremely, gross. And so I think he's just in shock at the beginning, and then they instantly call him a different name and saying he's a ranch hand that showed up, and then she shows the gun for who was meant to be me. And so he's just kind of processing all this. And then when they get over to the mule, and
the golf cart thing.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell you. And then she shuts me down. And I think I kind of have life gets boring sometimes. Let's spice things up. Let's go along with this and see where it leads me. And so that was kind of his I think Joseph's approach to it was didn't want to be in that situation with the cow, but or calf, but then it was let's see where this thing goes.
But there's a really cool moment too after the calf is born, and you're just kind of in awe of what just happened and what you participated in.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she's reading you like, why is he acting this way? And that starts her wheels turning, like, this guy is not acting the way he should be acting. So the end of the scene was really lots of stuff was going on.
That's very true. Yeah, it's interesting, and it's up for debate probably what actually happened versus what Josh as an actor thought. But of when and where the switch started happening from jerk to kind of genuine guy, and little pieces here and there, and then coming back and then going full on. And it's interesting because we've actually talked about it. And I was like, that wasn't my plan, but that's how it kind of came across. But, and what works and what didn't.
Yeah, it happened sooner on the day, which is a term that we use, during filming.
That film speak?
Yeah. It happened sooner through your performance than it was supposed to on paper.
Yeah.
But it actually worked better.
Well, even when they're up at top of the hill and Hannah comes up with offering him breakfast, he's sweet to her, which I really like. Like, hi, I'm Manny.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah. I like that too.
Lauren, since you had your co-lead and scene partner as a captive due to the pandemic, did you guys, when you were writing, did you guys ever read any of the scenes to see how the dynamic would work?
Oh yeah. So I was locked in. I would switch from my little office space to a little chair by a window. I didn't leave those two spots for a long time.
She would go for like hours.
I get into a space where I start writing at, in the morning, and I'm in one spot and I forget to eat. I get angry when I have to go to the bathroom. Like, I'm so focused. He would always have to feed me because I just.
Yeah. And then every blue moon, she'd be writing, and then she'd go, I'm stuck. And then I'd come in, and it actually worked into like a fun system where she'd say, I'm stuck. I'd say, what's the scene? Who's it between? Where are we at in the story? And then I'd lay down and close my eyes, and I would have the conversation with myself. And then once we were kind of on that role, she would play one character, I'd play the other. And we'd literally just act it out, kind of improv.
He was Wendy, he was Hannah, he was Manny, he was Leo.
And sometimes if I would act out the whole scene, she would either take the whole scene or I would act it out, and then it would give her a different idea that's a little better for what she was doing. And then it would give her inspiration for that. Yeah. And we've been very fortunate to, we've had differing opinions on scenes and stuff. And it's, my brain is very, and I grew up with a strong mother. She was, she had a lot of alpha in her. And so I'm kind of thankful for that, because this is mainly her project, and so when I would be like, man, I really think this would be better, and she's like, I really like this, I can very easily flip a switch and be like, do you, whatever you think is best. And so, yeah, there were times that we think she thinks A and I think B, and it never really affected our work relationship or our marriage. And we're very thankful for that.
This was the first time we actually truly worked together.
Yeah.
And it was great. So,
Lauren, was this your first produced feature screenplay, or was this your first feature screenplay?
This was my first it was the first screenplay that I've written that actually got made. I think I have 15 compiled screenplays, but this was the first one that actually happened.
I think there'd be some interest in those other 14.
I know. You guys can read them. I started writing, I want to say 5 years ago, and I just kind of made it part of my everyday life. It's a muscle, I believe, and you have to work a muscle just like actors are in acting class. You got to always, if you're a writer, if you consider yourself a writer, I really do believe that you just got to do it at least every 3 days. But anyway, it was my first time going to set and seeing my words come to life. And I will never, like I said this before in this meeting, but I'll never forget the first time I saw it. My favorite moment of that is when there's a scene on a hill with this bench, and it overlooks the small winery, and then it overlooks the land. And I remember walking up and seeing that for the first time. I just started crying in a corner because it was so surreal, and it's something that I saw so clearly in my head. And I walked onto the set, and it was exactly what I pictured. And it was just, the team was working so hard to make it all beautiful, and they really cared about every single scene. And it was just very overwhelming and amazing, and I feel so lucky.
Well, one thing I'd like to tell you, Lauren, is I have never, in all the time I've been doing this, I have never seen a good movie come out of a bad script. And so for all the stuff that the rest of us added, your movie is the heart, and your script is the heart and soul of what makes this movie work. The rest of us are just icing on your cake.
Thank you, Brad. That's so sweet.
That's sweet.
So let's hand it off to Daniel. Let's pick back up again talking about the scenes. Daniel, what scene would you like to talk about?
Oh shit! Let me. I was not ready. Let me see. Well, I mean, I guess it's a little obvious, but I mean, for me personally, I think just the final scene inside the barn, and I think mostly, not because it was the grandest scene and all, but I think it kind of brought everyone together. And we could talk about it, but we had a few times we had to shut down due to a few scares. Well, actually once. We had to shut down because of a scare, and it was halfway through this scene. We were like halfway through this scene in the barn, and we had to shut down. We had, heard that someone, was in contact. Anyway, long story short, we had to shut down. We sent all the crew home for 2 days till we got all of our test results and all the extras. It was like only 20 extras because but we sent everyone home, and we explained to everyone the situation. Everyone was really understanding, obviously, considering. And then we brought everyone back, 2 days later to finish this. And it felt really like, we were all coming together. We were, going through this together. And not only the actors, the crew, but also the background. They all came back, and it was, in some ways, was kind of not only, the culmination of the story, but actually of the project itself and our story. So that's kind of what it felt. And we were all in this room, and everyone was in good spirits. I think it was towards the end of the shoot. So, and obviously this scene is amazing, and the song is amazing, and the performance, and that snow, and the kiss, and everything. So, it had everything. And it has the comedy, it has the drama, it has, the love. It has a little bit of everything. So it's, again, a culmination of all the elements in that barn, so I think that's my favorite overall.
That's so sweet. That's so true.
I never even thought about that. And that's very true, that when you added that element of having the scare, producers coming up and talking to, 40, 50 people in total, and COVID was still is, but such a scary thing. And
in July,
and
it was really
the
scary.
unknown of this project scrapped. Are half of us going to get sick? There was so much unknown, and it was met with so much kind of like a promising attitude. It was met with positivity and from everyone, from Crafty onto the executive producers, and to come back from that and get tested, put the movie through, it be such a success. It does add a whole nother level that I didn't realize until you just said that. It's really neat of everyone coming together and making it, not to be cheesy, but it's so much bigger than the project, and putting out a feel-good thing in the middle of a global pandemic. And that's so much more powerful than a movie about a winery, Save the Ranch, whatever, that we got to do that. And that's really neat.
Everyone feels like such a family. It's more so than ever with this movie than ever before. I mean, and we were together for just over 30 days, I think.
Yep.
And
but shooting
we only shot
15.
Yeah, we shot for
what was the shooting
weeks.
schedule, Daniel?
I think was originally 15. I think we dropped down because of we lost a few days due to a few of these scares, and obviously safety was our priority. But I think we ended up shooting, I want to say 14 days, so.
Yeah, it was 14. And then we had that pickup where we took a day off, and then Shaun and you and Allie and Josh and I did those pickups.
Oh, yeah.
One day of pickups with a crew of 5 people is, again, like you said, Brad, was myself, you, Josh, Lauren, and Allie, and Josh and Allie were in the scene, and no one else, because obviously we were at the point we couldn't afford any more days, unfortunately. Yeah. And there was a few scenes that was only Josh and Allie, and so we did those scenes. But yeah, that was but it was a really intimate, that goes to say it was really intimate, for the crew, for the cast, for everything, But yeah, that was my scene, anyways.
Hey, Jamie, what scene would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, it's in a similar way. I like selfishly the bar scene where, well, first of all, the lighting, it just feels very authentic, like a real bar, like that you would walk into, like in one of these little tiny, towns. I grew up in the Midwest. Well, my grandparents did, and so I'm very familiar with these kinds of looks. And you nailed the visuals and the whole vibe there. Anyways, so it's got the bar brawl, which is a lot of fun, and then Callie breaking so it just feels like a kind of a classic, classic movie there. And then Liz's character sings. We had to do 2 songs for her to sing live, so we did it, I think, the day before we wrote this song.
Yeah, you guys were so great about doing stuff last minute like that. That was so impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
What was that call like, Jamie? Hey.
Yeah, like we need this song. We're actually shooting tomorrow. So Caitlin, the Liz character. So we obviously were working remotely because she was already on set and with you guys. So I would send her like my ideas for the songs, and then she would just record her voice on her iPhone and send it to me. And so we knew that later down the road we were going to re-record it. So we just needed something for her to basically lip sync against. And so for that particular scene, that song, Shaun said he wanted something like Great Balls of Fire in there, something with that energy to kind of break up, the crowd after and get them riled up again. So that's where that kind of came from.
And I gotta say, I was very sad because I really enjoyed that song, but I had to follow the characters outside because that's where the story was.
Yeah.
As soon as she started singing, I had to cut away.
Yeah, in the film, there's only like 5 seconds of the song, right?
Yeah, but the whole thing's great.
I suggested to Shaun, I said, why don't y'all play the whole song over part of the end credits?
Of that song? Yeah.
Because we had to do the Christmas.
Song.
I know, I loved that song too.
I want the soundtrack album. I told Jamie, man, I think both of those original songs would chart.
I love them. They're so good.
They're good, but is Caitlin there?
She is. You want to do an appearance? Come here, do an appearance.
Nice.
She's here. Sure. With a little Christmas hat on.
Oh. Kitty.
Hi guys. How's it going?
We're talking about how much we love your songs.
Oh, gee,
And
thanks.
the movie.
Thanks. I think we're gonna put them out, but Jamie and I are talking about how to do that.
Strategy.
Because Jamie and I have done a lot of songs together now, so we're kind of like thinking about maybe putting out a compilation. I don't know. We'll see.
We did finish the Lately song in full, but we haven't finished the Marmalade song.
Yeah, we added an extra verse just to make it a little longer for our libraries. But yeah, we need to finish that.
Yeah.
I've had people asking for the song from The Stand too, and I keep asking.
I'm sorry. I know.
Yeah.
I keep telling her.
I know, he tells me every single day that I need to do it. Well, we're going to figure something out.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I love that bar scene.
Look how festive Brad looks.
Yeah.
So Caitlin, since you're sitting there, I'm going to throw the ball to you. Tell us about what scene would you like to talk about in the movie?
Oh my God. Well, I'm in this apartment, so I've kind of heard bits and pieces of what some of the people have said. I'm a huge sap. Like, I'm the kind of person who cries at infomercials. So my favorite scenes are always the ones that make me cry. So obviously I'm going to piggyback on everyone else's and say that the scene with Amanda and Lauren is just like I mean, I've seen the movie a million times now, and it makes me cry every single time. I mean, it's just really a stellar performance. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like the ending scene too. It's hard now. Everyone's given all like their opinions on scenes. The ending scene makes me choke up. It's just so sweet and so perfectly Christmas. And it's just like that vibe that I think, especially during COVID, like I've had so many friends watch the movie and they're like, although this is a little bit rom-com and a little bit like 2000s, it's literally exactly what I needed right now. And that's why I think it's doing so well, is because it's just that it just hits you right in the heart. It makes you feel, you know, you get down low because we've all been there throughout the year, but then at the end you end on a high note. So it's that feeling of hope, which is exactly what we need before 2021. Didn't mean to get that deep, but
I agree.
yeah,
That's true.
my
Hey,
opinion.
Brett, what scene do you want to talk about?
Which scene I like the most?
What would you like to talk about? It could be for any reason.
Well, it's interesting because I piggybacked on Shaun with the scene in the car. You know, I was talking about how emotionally moved I was just watching the dailies, and I knew we had something special at that moment. And it's always tough balance between knowing when to cut, because if something's really holding your attention and moving you, you don't want to make it abrupt, you know, move on to the next line. But also you don't want to make it so long that it loses its effect. So I did spend some time, and the girls were so good in that scene. It was very hard not to just want to stay on them.
So
I have a question that's completely off topic with Jamie. When someone gives you a project, what is like step one to like watching the movie? And then like, cause my dad majors in music and composition and I'm obsessed with it, but I have no idea about your world. Like, did you see The Holiday with Jack Black and Cameron Diaz?
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah.
My favorite movie.
So is it similar to that where you have a monitor up and you're watching the movie and you're sitting at a keyboard going, da, 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 you know, like, that's how it is in my head. Don't ruin it.
It's not that far off from that.
That's so cool.
I am kind of corny, yeah, with all that kind of stuff. But and that, yeah, I mean, yeah, we have the setup like that with the video screen up there, and then my keyboard, you know, down below, and it's and that's about it, you know, just I have a piano that I try and come up with themes on and things like that. And
do you get inspiration from like the director or producers and they say, hey, we want something like this, or do they send it to you and just go?
Well, luckily, like, you know, Shaun and I have worked together on several films, you know, including Roped that you guys were in. So we kind of have like a shorthand already. And basically, yeah, so he was like, oh, you know, I like this cue you did from Rope. Do something, but with our kind of film and this kind of thing. And
well, I did use a lot of your score.
Yeah, you use a lot of temp from Rope.
That's so cool.
In this.
Yeah, but Jamie, you might want to explain also the spotting. I think he's asking also spotting, all that kind of process
Going
there.
through figuring out where things
So
go.
Brett does put some temp stuff in, and then Jamie and Shaun sit down. You want to explain a little bit of the spotting process?
Lauren, were you on that spotting session too, or was it? I forgot.
I think I was. I did miss some of the spotting Zoom calls because we are already starting to write the thing that Brett is editing right now.
The show we're currently on.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you were there.
I was in one of the very early ones, and it was my first time being a part of a spotting session, and it was really fun. It was so interesting.
Yeah, and this one was a challenge because it was you know, through Zoom or whatever we did.
Yeah.
So this one was a little different than it would normally be. Would be like the director and the producer would come to my studio, and we would watch through the film together and just, you know, posit scenes and talk about scenes, spotting it, you know.
Yeah, that's great. That's so cool.
And Jamie, a lot of the people in the group are younger or less experienced filmmakers. Can you explain what spotting is?
Spotting is just watching through the film and picking spots or cues where you want the cues to come in, what you want the emotions to be, basically just what it sounds like, taking, spots, spotting.
It-
Like this
and yeah,
Jamie, right here at this spot. Yeah.
At this spot, we want the music to be this emotion.
and Brad, like an interesting fact for your young filmmakers, I guess, is we do that with almost every post-production department. So when we're done with, whatever the editor's cut, usually we'll go with the composer, we'll spot, the score, we'll sit down sometimes, with the music supervisor if we have some songs that we want to license, and we'll spot that as well. We'll decide where that goes. We do it with the our sound team, our post-production sound team. We'll go through the movie and pick areas where we specifically want some adjustments, ADR, sound effects, anything specific, and they'll have a lot of questions for us. And we'll do the same thing with color with our cinematographers as well, kind of go through the project and kind of set the tone for each scene. And so that's kind of like, that's like spotting for every department.
Lauren and Josh, I have a question for you guys. I hear a rumor that you guys actually know how to sing.
That's more of a no.
Josh
I grew up. My
Josh
mom's a vocal coach, and my dad was music and theory, and so
Josh is really good.
no, this is not true.
It is.
But the rule in our house was 4 years of piano, and then you could pick your instrument. And I'm kind of a drummer by trade, or I was back in the day. And everyone in my family can sing circles around me. Genuinely, I'm okay. I've lost a lot of what I used to do, but I love. I mean, I probably annoy the crap out of her. I love singing.
I like it.
Some ideas for the sequel, maybe.
Oh,
Exactly. There you go.
I'm into it.
Musical.
Do it,
I'm into it.
Joseph.
Brett, so as we're moving into post now, and we got a little bit ahead of ourselves talking about the music, but so the dailies start coming into you, and you don't know what you're gonna don't know what you're gonna be getting. I mean, you've worked with these people before, but still, every new movie is a new adventure. You've already kind of said that the scene in the car was a special moment where you had a realization about the film. Did you get a sense from some of the earliest dailies, or was it that scene that really catalyzed for you that this was going to be something special?
Well, I mean, I read the script, and so I knew we had something already. And then the good thing about our team is we work at the budget level that we work at. I think our product is so much higher than what it should be. Like, I think we really deliver quality product. So I knew it was going to be good. But it's not till you start putting this scene together to this scene, and then you start watching it all kind of unfold, that you really get a sense of how well it is. And so it was probably halfway through the editing process when I would just sit back and watch something. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be good.
Nice. So every day that you got dailies, like what was the average page count that you were getting? Was it like 6 to 8 pages a day of dailies?
Well, since we're in COVID world right now, we were getting drives shipped to my assistant, he would get like 3 days worth of dailies, and then he would start processing them and then uploading them to my system so that I could start cutting. So what was your question?
It was at what point did you realize that there was something here?
Like what day of footage did I realize?
Oh no, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm going backwards. I apologize. I had a brain fart. No, the question was I seem to recall we were shooting about 6 to 8 page days. So yeah. And you were getting the dailies 3 days at a time.
Yeah,
so you were getting about 24 pages of dailies. So as you're looking at those dailies, is there an intentional process of where you start? I mean, how do you say, I'm going to start with this scene?
Yeah, Well, when the dailies come in, I tend to start with the earliest scenes first because I want to kind of experience the movie from beginning to end as much as I can, just so I know where the characters are emotionally from this scene to this scene. So that's what I tend to do is like whatever comes in and it's scene 5, I'll cut that first. But, you know, we don't shoot it in script order, so I may be getting like the back end of the story first, and I just kind of have to do an assembly at that point, just knowing that I'm going to come back and revisit it once I have more of the beginning put together, just so I get a sense of the overall story.
So are you sending any rough scenes to Jamie for him to start getting a sense? No, so he doesn't see it until now. Does he see the first full cut, fine cut of it, or do you wait until it's a lock cut to send it to Jamie?
Usually it's a locked cut. I think on the film that I directed, I was sending you some scenes because I needed, like the walk to the barn, I needed a Jamie's touch on that. So he was kind enough to score a little bit ahead of time. But for the most part, I don't send anything out until the director and the producers have done their pass, and then we're locked. Because you don't want to have, you know, Jamie scoring something and then we change it and then he's got to redo it.
So Jamie, a question I have for you, because I realize that, you know, scoring it is one thing, but do you start thinking of themes and are there any musical elements that start percolating in your head when you read the script, or is there anything preparatory you do, or do you just wait until you have that lock cut to begin the process?
I did read the script on this one, but to be honest, it's really hard to musically to see how it's cut together, like the pacing of a film. What visually, it's much easier for me to work visually. So I kind of wait okay. on that. And as far as themes, I believe there's a few, on this one, there was a few scenes that we needed to send to Netflix early on. So those were done out of context a little bit. So like the motorcycle scene was sent, the motorcycle riding scene. And so I came up with their theme for that scene first, and then went back when I got the locked cut and started inserting that into other places.
Can you explain kind of the dynamic of how themes work in a movie with the characters and the story?
I mean, there's the traditional theme thing comes all the way back from, you know, if you think about like Star Wars or something like that, something called leitmotifs, which comes back from, you know, Wagner operas and all that kind of stuff. So where you assign a certain theme to a character. So it's easy to tell, you know, if they're coming or if they're going, or, you know, and then you can kind of take that theme and like the Callie theme, basically the romance theme there, I play it in a darker way, like when they're building the near the end of the movie where they're building the vineyard. I kind of use their theme, but it's in a minor key and it's kind of dark because they're unsure, you know, about how they feel about each other at that point. And so it's not the romantic lush theme that you hear when they're riding the motorcycle. It's just a different kind of a minor key version. So, you know, if you have a nice simple theme, then you can manipulate it to match the emotions of a scene, which is great.
I just want to say, Brad, this is very interesting for us as well to know actually about the process. We've worked together for so many years, but it's kind of interesting to hear anyways.
Hey, so Brett, tell me a little bit about the editing on this film specifically. Obviously, you know, you got to sit with it and put your fingerprints on a pass of it. And then once, who all from Daniel, Ali, Shaun, was it those guys? Was it Lauren and Josh? Who all was giving input once you had done your pass?
So once I did my original pass, it went to another writer in this company named Alex.
Alex did a pass.
Alex
Lucy did a pass.
Yeah, Alex did. We kind of worked together on a pass. Alex is the master of structure. And he has taught me everything I know about structure. So he's given me all of the books to read and everything, and he is like my writing hero. So I loved working with, I work with Alex now on almost all my scripts. He's kind of like my mentor, but he, you know, took my first draft and said, this doesn't really work. It's too slow here. Do something else here. He kind of gave me overall notes, and then I did a second pass with Alex's notes. And then Alex, after I did his notes, he actually did a dialogue pass where he would just tweak some lines to make them a little bit shorter. I tend to overwrite. My scripts tend to be about 110 pages, which is a little long. So I have to have help to cut things down, as Daniel knows. So after that, then we took it to another person on the team named John Ducey, and he did another dialogue pass. And he's the funny one. He's the guy that
has great little one-liners.
He could punch up all of the jokes. So anytime I would try to make something funny, he would just take my funny and make it awesome. So yes, I was the main writer of the script, but
if anyone's seen Wheels of Fortune, John plays the lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So trickling down the line, I did have amazing insight and help with the screenplay, which you can, I mean, it speaks for itself. Everyone.
And then Lauren and Josh, you guys were both, y'all are producers. Were you involved in the editing? Were you giving input once Brett had done his cut of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was less than she was. But yeah, this was a fascinating experience for me. Because this was my first time doing anything on the front or back like that. It was a valuable experience for me, and seeing that what people don't realize is just everything has been gone through with a fine-tooth comb. From should we use the wide shot? Should we use the 2-shot? Should we pull the music back? Should we bring it up? Let's add a bird chirping there. Let's take the bird chirping out. I mean, it's like any possible thing that's in there, it's on purpose and it's been talked about.
Yep.
And it's wild. And doing all that during a pandemic and ADR, Lauren and I were under beds with all these comforters trying to
ADR.
Callie, wait. Callie, wait.
Oh
Callie, wait. You know,
we have like a bed sheet, a comforter, and then a duvet cover. We were just tunneled under all of our sheets trying to get good sound quality for ADR. That was funny. But yeah.
Did ESX send you guys a mic and a recorder, or did you have your own?
We used just a cheapo mic.
Yeah, this is the mic that I use for, I do voiceovers.
Okay.
Like little cartoon voices. And this is the mic that I use.
Cartoon voices? Which cartoons? I want to see them.
Oh my gosh. It's like a hidden talent of mine. I can send you my reel if you would like.
Okay.
It's creepy.
Well, now I gotta hear it, so
I'll send it to everybody.
Yeah.
Brett, in addition to Lauren and Josh, who of the producers, and obviously Shaun, who all was involved in the conversations about the edit?
Well, it's kind of our ESX way of doing things is as many cooks as we can get involved in creating the menu and the desserts, and like I don't know, there's and it was actually hard because we couldn't meet in person, so it was all done just by writing the time codes down and writing the notes down. But I forget how many passes we did. It was quite a few. And we were in such a time crunch because we had to deliver by Halloween to Netflix.
Oh yeah, that was Halloween.
Yeah.
So to give you an idea, like on some of our regular movies, we'll have like a 14 to 16 to 20 weeks of editing, just of editing. I'm just, for a director's cut. Depending on how complex the movies are, especially action ones are obviously very different. But I think Brett had a heart attack when I told him this. Is like, you got to do it in 6 weeks, and I think it extended to 7, but
we actually got 8.
Yeah, I think extended or whatever. Yeah, but it extended a little bit after that. But
like half what I was expecting.
Half what was expected, and then from there, thankfully, actually on this project we did not have. It was a little smaller, so we did not have too many voices. But we had, in the post-production process, for like kind of the producer's pass, it was me, Lauren, Josh. I mean, all of our kind of close, right? Like Caitlin, whoever was at our house, we kind of would ask them to give notes, and we would have screen after screen. Shit, we saw the movie for 1 week. I must have seen it like 20 times, so because we were such on a time crunch. So usually we'll have some screenings, and we'll invite friends, and we'll invite people that are outside kind of our group. And we did this on this as well, but it was very limited. But we'll have a screening, and then, we'll have everyone in a room kind of discussing, what it will have like a questionnaire, that kind of stuff. And, we did the same on this. I think we did, 3 or 4 passes of just producer notes between me, Lauren, again, Josh, Allie, and Shaun involved. So we had all the producer notes. And when we implemented that, then we started doing, some other screenings, and we had to do them all, instead of having the screen in a room, we would send out a link and with the questionnaire, and then we would have a Zoom meeting just to discuss kind of our answers. And those would inform because after watching it for so long and so many times, sometimes we're just a little blinded, and some things we're just, it's hard to tell.
It's so helpful to get fresh eyes, someone that has not seen or know anything about the story, to watch it, because then their insight is very helpful, because you're just, you get blinders on after a while.
And I'll tell you, there was some discussions early on even that, which is, I think, one of the beautiful qualities of this, that the fact that the comedy and the drama and the romance, the combining of those, is it going to work for the audience? That was one of the big things I remember that was brought up several times. And obviously it works beautifully. That's, I think, one of the, strong points of the project.
But we did make adjustments, though. I do remember toning down the comedy a little bit in certain areas.
Yeah.
One of the questions I got for you, Brett, is was there kind of a general accord? I mean, obviously different people had different opinions, but were there any scenes that stood out where there was maybe more of a tug of war of two more opposed visions, or was it all just kind of nips and tucks?
You guys remember?
This on this project specifically, thankfully, because we're under really time constraint, there weren't big battles. And listen, there are on many projects, we do have big differing opinions.
Yeah.
But
one scene that kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and that was the office scene.
Oh yeah,
Joseph and his mom.
Yeah.
It was probably double what it is now. And we just trimming it down and trimming it down.
Yeah, that was a big note. I think part of it is we wanted to get to the kind of meat of the relationship sooner.
We wanted to get to Petaluma sooner, yeah.
This happens, Brett can probably tell you more, but I think on most projects it happens, the first tax tends to be a little bit slower, and then, and you need to kind of like trim it down many times. So, and I think this happened in this as well.
Yeah, I remember on Lady Driver, we took out the whole backstory and started
so
5 minutes earlier. Than we were using.
The setup is not always as interesting as getting into the real meat and potato of the story. And so I think that was one of the early notes to kind of, let's get to Callie and Joseph, sooner.
The only entire scene that I noticed missing was the one where Joseph helps her fix the car. Was there another one that I'm missing? Was there any?
So this is funny. So there were so many last
that's
minute.
Not in there,
No. There were, so right before we started shooting, an executive at Warner Brothers really took interest in the script, and he gave some really solid notes, I want to say 2 days before we started shooting. And Allie, Afshar, said, we got to take these notes, they're good. And I agree that they were good. So we did a pretty big, Shaun and I together did a pretty big rewrite of one of the character arcs, Connor's character. We kind of completely did something else with his character 2 days before we were shooting. And that caused for a lot of scenes that were in the movie to be cut to make room for this new story. And that car scene was left in the script it should have been cut out because there was no room for it in the story. There was no follow through. So the fact that we And I remember how rushed we were when we were shooting that scene, and Shaun and I were like, why doesn't this make sense? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's here, so we have to do it. And we're like, okay, let's just do it. And we were so rushed, and it's so funny that it got cut. And now, now that we're outside of it, now that we're looking down from a new view, we can see that Shaun and I both talked about how it was in there from one of the old drafts.
Wow. I want to focus a little bit. I want to shift our focus to Jamie and talk about the music in depth more. But before I do, really quick, I just wanted to comment that one of the things that I love about the script is how complex and sympathetic Connor is. Connor so easily in somebody else's hands could have just been a cliche. And I think between you and Shaun and I'm sorry, what was our gentleman's name?
Gunner.
Gunner. Between you, the three of you, you never hate that character. Even when he's being confrontational, you feel him, and that's just so beautiful and amazing. I mean, it's like every character in this movie, in spite of the dynamic, every one of them is sympathetic.
Yeah, we really didn't want to make Connor's character truly unlikable. In a previous version of the script, when it was much longer, there was a whole other scene where he was drunk at my barn. I'm usually the person that takes him home, but he was so drunk that I couldn't lift him, and I had to call his character Joseph for help. And it was just such a sweet scene. So that scene actually carried over into what I wanted Connor's energy to be throughout the entire thing, is just like a lost soul that was my friend and a really sweet guy. So I'm glad that came across.
So Jamie, let's focus on the music for a second. Can you talk a little bit about, obviously your time frame was compressed, and to what extent did you use session players? How much of this score is you? How much of it is you bringing people in? Did you do all the arrangements? If you brought people in, did you let them arrange their parts?
Right. Well, first of all, like every other department, once Netflix gave the go, it got really short real quick. Thanks, Daniel.
Very welcome.
But there is a famous quote, I think it's by Leonard Bernstein. Great art is made with a good idea and not quite enough time. Which I think, for me personally, I'm very good under pressure, and I know all of these guys are as well. And I know Brett is great under pressure. Maybe he doesn't like to admit it, but he is. And but we've also been working as a team, this ESX team, for years now. So there's, we don't have to deal with egos or anything like that. It's like we're just here as a team to make a great film together. Like, we're all filmmakers.
Love that. And
so it's great. And what was your other question, Brad?
Did you use, because you're a multi-instrumentalist, did you do everything? Did you bring a section people in?
Yeah, I brought in a guitarist for all the guitars are live, 90% of them. Because I knew, especially with the country tinged kind of, feel to the score, that those always, should be live, for sure.
That's so cool. I didn't know that.
That's okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah. No, I always, even just one musician on top of a synth score just adds so much humanity and so much realness to it. And now we will layer different guitars and things like that, and it just brings it to life, That said, the rest of the score, the orchestra and stuff, is all synthesizers for time and budget reasons. But I think it sounds pretty good. The trick is to make it. I try to stay really minimal with the score, and just let the acting is so good in the film, and the editing and everything like that. So I just got to get out of the way, basically, and just try and just give the least amount of stuff that I can give there to heighten what's already on the screen.
So for the guitar parts, had you done a temp guide track, or did you just tell the guy what you wanted, or how much of that was, your session player doing his thing?
It's a combination of both. Yeah, I have synthesized guitar stuff that's in their temp, and then I just tell them what we want, and some of it's a little improv and all that. Yeah, it's a mix.
Now, do you play guitar? I thought you played guitar as well.
I do, but I don't play as well as these guys play. I mean, I hire the best guys.
Well, that's the only reason I asked that is because you said the temp guitar parts were a keyboard instead of you plunking away. Did you, for the bass parts, is that a keyboard, or did you play like an electric bass?
No, the bass is live bass on most of it. Yeah.
And that's you playing the live bass?
No, it's the guitarist.
So one guitarist who did the bass and the sixth string.
Yes, he did. He's like a multi-instrumentalist, and so he's got about 100 guitars, and so he'll just, a one-stop shop basically.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's really cool.
Any interesting highlights on what kind of guitars or basses he brought?
I will put you in touch with him. I don't know all the guitars that he's using.
How about you? Yeah, in terms of how you were generating the sound, was it mostly VSTs like computer plugins, or were you using any standalone synths or keyboards?
Yeah, I mean the score is very organic sounding, kind of. There's not a lot of CGI in the film, and so we just wanted to stay very, organic, I would say is the term. So simple and organic, and that's it. Not behind the scenes there is a lot of computer stuff going on, just like with everything,
Yeah.
3 computers working together, but with the goal of just being simple.
Is there anything you'd like to say about the score that I haven't thought to ask? Or the songs that you wrote with
really, other than I'm just super happy with how the songs turned out. Obviously, Caitlin and I have worked together on at least like 4 other films writing songs, and so we kind of have a shorthand, and we just, to be honest, like we just write very well together. So I come up with like some chords, and then I see if they resonate with her, and then she'll come up with melodies, send it back to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Let's use that for a verse. And so we work quick and we work well. So that's.
So Lauren, the question I have for you is, we kind of started this conversation with you talking about what your experience of the first day on set and hearing your words performed live. Did you have any kind of similar emotional resonance when you began to hear the songs and the music that was going to adorn the movie from your script?
Oh, I mean, yes, absolutely. I think the first time that I experienced that was when I watched it after the sound had been completed, and I watched it through, and I was in awe. I said, this is a good movie. We have a cute movie, and I couldn't believe it, because
there's such a deep breath with that when you don't know.
Yeah, we had no idea.
The first edit you see, or the first thing where everything's buttoned up and everyone can go, oh, like,
we did it.
It's not awful.
Yeah, because before everything's perfect, it's all you see are all the flaws in everything, and then finally it's locked, and it's just, wow, everything that we worked for and cut out and mixed together, just.
And there's something so special. Sorry to steal it from you, but that everyone knows, especially listening to this, that's a film enthusiast and stuff. You can make an $80 million movie and it doesn't work. You can take the top actors in the world and the top director in the world, and it still doesn't work. Like there's this weird algorithm equation that's going on with every single project. And to take the budget that we had, no names, and during a pandemic on 2 6-day weeks, the variables that were at play for someone to say #1 movie in the world on a streaming service. It's
still so crazy.
It's so weird. And it goes to show that it's not always about the budget. It's not always about what A-lister or how many followers do they have. And this world that we're moving into,
sometimes, you could say a lot of this was to do with Christmas, and that's true, and it's a happy movie in a dark time. But it's so cool when something comes together that maybe shouldn't work and it works, and it kind of gives hope to, the new filmmaker or the young filmmaker, people starting out, that we did something with nuts and bolts and ended up with a finely tuned car in a way.
I mean, Brad, do you remember, Brad, that scene? It was on an off day. We were shooting on our off day, and you wanted a dolly effect, a push in.
Oh, Shaun was there. I don't know if Brad was there.
No, I think you were there, Brad.
We put a camera in a wheelbarrow.
Camera in a wheelbarrow,
and
you were there.
Truck scene that got cut.
Yeah. But you were there, right? We put a camera in a wheelbarrow, and you guys wheeled. I mean, that to know that our movie is #1 in the world, and it's just crazy. It's just so cool.
It's funny you say that, because the scene I thought you were going to talk about when you were talking about me and a day off was the scene where Callie is driving to the cemetery, because that was just you and me.
It was just us in there.
And I've had some moments like that before, even like on music videos, like where I'm in a car and this artist is singing and I'm like an audience of one. And it's just this privileged unique front row seat. It's like what somebody would pay $1 million to be the only one to experience that moment live. And it was such an intimate and profound scene for your character. And you just delivered, and it was just me and the camera. And again, it was one of those things where I kind of wanted to put the camera down and give you a hug and tell you it was going to be all right.
Well, your energy on set is so calm, and you're such a efficient person, but also there's no hectic energy that comes off of you. So just being in scenes like that are intimate when it's just you, you made me feel so comfortable and safe to act however I wanted to in the scene. And you're so great to work with.
I've been on shoots before, where the shit was hitting the fan and people were freaking out, and I was just completely Hakuna Matata. And some people say, why are you so calm? And I'm because not being calm is not going to make anything better. I mean, it's going to work out. We've got a great team. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I mean, it's a privilege and a joy to be on set. And I wake up knowing that, and I remind myself of that in every moment. And I don't let the pressure get to me, because even the problems are like a gift. It's a challenge. It's like, let's rise to this. We got a couple of other questions. We're getting close to the end if anybody's getting antsy. But one person asked, in terms of the relationship with Netflix, and this is probably a Daniel question, when and how did a conversation come up with Netflix? Were they involved from the inception at all? What could you tell us about how this show wound up on Netflix?
They weren't involved from the top. We have a relationship with Warner Brothers. Actually, Warner Brothers kind of sold our movie to Netflix. So ESX has been on the Warner Brothers lot for several years now. Where we don't have a deal or a first look or anything, but we do have some relationship that have grown throughout the years. And so they've sold some of our previous movies to Netflix. And anyway, the salesperson at Warner Brothers, this is more honestly of an Allie question. I wish he was here. Yeah. We had a little bit of a conversation towards the end. It wasn't at the start at all. It wasn't even when we wrapped. It was kind of like, halfway through post, if that, and maybe even later on in post, where this kind of all happened. And I think, as we can all imagine, I know a lot of these streaming services are looking for content and all that. So I'm not really sure of all the intricacies of it all, but that was kind of part of it. And, Christmas movie, and there wasn't a lot of content. We were one of the first movies out of the gate, California, which, for better or worse, we learned a lot throughout of it. And so, yeah, they became very interested. And when we heard that, even when in the deal really wasn't made, even though there was an open conversation. Really, the deal wasn't locked or made until we wrapped, and even when we kind of finished the project in post, we had delivered the project by the time we actually signed the papers. It wasn't that long ago. Yes.
You know why they chose to release it as a Netflix original?
You know, I actually am not sure why they chose that, but when I heard that, I was very, very happy. Yeah. And I'm not sure what the choice was, because we actually sold another project to them that was kind of in tandem, was Wheels of Fortune, and that wasn't. So I'm not sure how they picked their projects, but I know I did go back and forth specifically with them about, you know, where to put the Netflix original before, after the titles, all that stuff, and that definitely made me happy. Just when I was through that process post, it was amazing.
A question actually from me, and I realize you may or may not know, and if you do know, you may or may not be at liberty to say, but considering we're at day 7, number 1 in the world, I imagine that there are people at Netflix and Warner Brothers who have something to say about that. Have any of those comments filtered down to you?
Well, I'll be honest, again, this is an alley conversation, and, you know, I'm not, but yes, he's more in the kind of distribution / relationship with the distributors, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm more like the boots on the ground kind of guy. But, and if he was here, I'm not sure he'd want to talk about it, but yeah, that's all I gotta say.
I figured as much. So a question for Lauren. One of the folks who's with us is just a huge fan of the wine tasting scene, where the fellow comes and is sampling the wine out of the barrels. And maybe it would be interesting to talk a little bit about that scene, deconstruct it from, you know, writing it to playing it to seeing it edited. You know, maybe just give a little overview.
Yeah, so like I said, the original draft, the ending didn't have anything to do with wine. And wine is one of my favorite things. So Alex is, you know, the person I kind of call my writing mentor. He wasn't a fan of the ending, and the ending had to do with something called a conservation easement. I could go into the whole thing, but he said, make it about the land. Like make it, it's the conservation easement thing is about the land, but make it something bigger. And so we thought, what could it be? What could it be? What could it be? And we thought of this wine idea, and then it turned into, how in the world is wine gonna save the ranch? Like, how is that even a possibility? How much does a winery make? And then I had to really start researching about leasing grapevines, and the most elite grapevine from France. How did it come over to California? Is it realistic that this land that we're shooting on could hold these kind of grapevines? And it was a lot of research that had to happen in a very short amount of time. And I didn't know anything about, you know, how you would keep wine or how you would hold it in a barrel or anything. So I contacted a sommelier. His name is Dan Veet. And we talked for almost 4 hours on the phone, and I just learned so much about wine and how you store it and how it came from France into California and how expensive it truly is if you have these certain type of grapes on your land. And it was a perfect solution. And that shed, it was actually, I wrote it specifically as an underground, you know, storm cellar type of shed. And this house didn't have it, but our art department knew how important it was. And they built this fake door on the edge of the house. And then the winery, the wine cellar, we actually built an external set. I don't know if I'm using the correct vocab, but we built it in Allie's barn.
Yes, it's the same barn where the Christmas party takes place.
Yeah, we built it in a little corner, and it was so perfect. And we had fake dust everywhere, and but yeah, learning about wine through this writing process was really enjoyable to me, it was really fun.
About that moment as an actor playing Callie, because that's a transformational moment for her. I mean, I would think, you know, both her relationship to the farm and her relationship with her father and her view of Josh, they all transform in that moment.
Yes. So when I walk down there before the wine tasting and I see that my dad truly believed that our land could become a vineyard, but when I held that sign, that was a moment for Callie when she truly saw something that she never knew about her dad, that he, you know, believed in this so much. And, you know, we were days away from having to move out of the house. So that was an emotional experience. Just, man, I wish I would have known about this sooner, because maybe I could have done something about it, you know? And then to hear that Joseph had sent somebody to the land to taste the wine was just, it forced me to forgive him a little bit, because that's a huge gesture. And, you know, when it all worked out, it was like the weight of the world came off of my shoulders, and the weight of the world came off of my whole family's shoulders. That scene in the kitchen where we opened up I showed my mom the paperwork. I love that scene. It was so, just the relief in that scene was so fun to experience through Callie.
Yeah.
It was really.
I realized that everybody got to talk about a scene except for me, and I have one. I mean, I could do a whole one of these of me just talking about my favorite scenes, because picking your favorite scene is like picking your favorite child. But one of the things that I love most. One of the things I love most about movie making is the magic and the illusion, you know, just like the cattle scene, or the fact that exterior entrance to the wine cellar just leads to more grass and dirt,
Yeah.
or the fact that the interior of the wine cellar is a redressed corner of that same party barn. But the one I want to talk about is one that a lot of people have no clue, and it's the scene that you talked about when you walked up the hill to the bench and you thought it was so beautiful. And you know, Shaun and I mean, we all were overwhelmed by that, and we made the decision to shoot that a little bit later in the day when we had that really beautiful light. And between that and the logistics of getting up there, we were in a position where we lost the light. And if you watch the scene in the movie, you don't know that, because the beautiful sunset light is on the characters the whole time. But the thing that I will tell you, and you know this, but the people listening don't, that wide shot is the sun, and your close-up is the sun. And when we flip over to Josh, the sun is gone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That was an Arri Sky Panel S60 LED fixture, and it's an RGB fixture, which means we could adjust the color, and we dialed it in. We got the level right, and we got the color right. And I'll brag on myself and say I set it to I did not use a meter. But you know what? I want to flatter myself by saying, when I saw that scene cut, I couldn't remember if it was you or Josh that had the artificial light.
It was Josh.
Pardon?
I think it was definitely Josh.
It was Josh, but when I first saw it, it had been so long, I couldn't remember. And just looking at it, I was like, you know, and I think it's just like how people believe that we really filmed a cat giving birth. You know, I think people have no idea, you know. So I just, you know, it's just movie magic like that. And it, you know, it may be, you know, not so special to some people, but to me, I love pulling stuff like that off.
You were so good at that stuff. I mean, we were rushing so much, and you always found a solution with your either Steadicam instead of sticks, or your.
Yeah. I just got a few closing thoughts here, and then if anybody else has something to say. One of the things I want to tell you is I've gotten a lot of comments from people, you know, especially guys, who, when they're telling me what they think about the movie, they start by saying, I don't really like this kind of movie, but, and then they go on to say how much they really loved this one. or they say, you know, my wife was watching it and I wasn't really paying attention, but then it really caught me. Are you guys getting that too, where you got people who aren't necessarily fans of this genre who are loving this movie?
Yes. I love when people tell me how many themes we were able to throw into one movie. I mean, we have, just like we've talked about before, everyone was laughing and crying, and he goes through an identity crisis a little bit, and they're all things that are very relatable in everyday life. I mean, I have lots of friends that have lost parents at a young age around the holidays. It's hard for them. So, you know, I think that was a surprise. It was a surprise to hear from people that really love that we put that scene, or the character of Amanda Detmer choosing not to go through chemo. It was really relatable to a lot of my friends in ways that I didn't expect. So I just love how many things we were able to pull off in one movie, because, you know, on paper it could have not worked out very well, but it did. It all meshed together.
So when you finish the script and we're going into production, that last night before we went on set for the first time, that last night when you had never heard anybody speak your words, and when you imagined that movie and that movie that was in your head, between that and what you can watch on Netflix now, is that what you imagined? What's the experience?
It is so much better than I could have imagined, because even the montage scenes in the movie, I mean, when I watch a Nicholas Sparks movie, I just can't wait for the montage. And I think on paper, we had split the montage up into 3 different sections, but through the editing process with Brett and Shaun, we made it into one long one. And it was just so gorgeous. And the lighting, Brad, especially the picnic scene, is my favorite, you know. And that, when I saw that was what I pictured in my head, dream world. It was that lighting, that vibe, that Nicholas Sparks dream life, you know. And that night, the night before the first day on set, I was extremely nervous. I don't think I slept, because I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, what if this sucks? What if this is such an epic fail? But yeah, the fact that it's being received so well is such a beautiful surprise. And I'm so thankful to the team.
So I have one last quick question before I'll ask if anybody has any final thoughts. And I'm not putting you on the spot here asking for specifics. This is just a kind of a general question. But have you thought about a sequel? Do you have some ideas? You don't have to tell me what they are, but have you been thinking about it?
Yeah, we've thought different avenues. We can't talk, obviously, about when and where and why and how, but it's due to the success of this one, there have been some real conversations about what a sequel could look like.
Yes.
And are you guys excited about what that might be?
Yes.
Yes.
You think people will be
Theoretically.
You think people will be surprised by some of your ideas?
There are so many ideas right now that it could go this way, it could go this way. I'm excited about all of them. So
we're talking a franchise with multiple sequels and possibly a series, right?
Callie and Joseph in space. That's the next one. Yeah.
We're gonna make Fast and Furious look like a one-time little thing here.
Nice.
Leo and Manny in space.
You know,
Leo and Manny in space.
You know,
California Christmas, Leo and Manny in space.
There's contention out there, and I can get on board with it that there needs to be a Leo and Manny spinoff.
Oh my gosh.
People would totally get on board with that.
Leo and Manny need to.
Anybody have any parting thoughts or any final things they'd like to say?
No, we're just happy to talk about it. And
yeah, it feels so fun to come together again and talk about the success, like to really take time and enjoy it. This has been great, Brad. Thank you for having all of us.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah, and Brad, just the little thing, just in from producer and everyone, like I think we're all just so thankful, of this team. A lot of the team, again, we've worked together. We're all actually close friends in many ways, especially the close-knit team, the one that was here on Zoom, and we're just so glad that it was just kind of like a family coming together and doing a project that honestly was small. We didn't know it was going to go anywhere, and it just blew up. Yeah. And it's amazing that it's this one because again, it was so intimate, and it was like friends working together, and so it's amazing. And filmmaking is always about collaboration, but when you can collaborate with people you really respect and you like to work with, it makes it twice as fun. And though the movie was hard to make because of the pandemic, I think it was actually a really fun, like Lauren or Josh I think mentioned before, like everybody on set and in post was very just smiles and happy, and just be happy to be back and working and just collaborating with people. So I think all of that. So, and so we're all very grateful of being able to work together, and that this project is being received as it has. So.
Exactly.
Yes.
Brad, did you have something?
Nope.
Well, I would just, kind of echo what Daniel said. This was my first job with ESX. Brett and I've worked together before, and Shaun and I've worked together before, and I know all the ESX people. And like what Brett said is, all of the films that they have made are just outstanding, and I really, highly recommend to anybody to just watch them all. The first one you should start with is The Stand at Paxton County. It was directed by this man right here. And that's his directing debut that he just killed it on. But they're great stories. They're really good. They're not what you typically see at a this kind of an independent level. They're not exploitation at all. They all have heart. They all have sincerity and authenticity. And one of the things that I'd like to personally say about my experience on this, I've been doing this for a while, and sometimes you get on jobs and you have a great experience shooting it and it's a wonderful memory, but then the movie comes out and you kind of hope people don't go see it. It's just a bloodbath getting it made, but you make something awesome, or you have to make compromises where when you see the film, there's that one scene where you're just going, oh, I wish I'd have had more time, or whatever, all those little things that can kind of, partially diminish the experience. And I just have to say, from the moment that Shaun called me to tell me about this film to this moment right now, there has not been a single unhappy memory. Even when we got shut down because of the COVID test, the way that it was handled, the warm, paternal approach that Ali took in how much he cared about everybody and cared about the film. I mean, it's just like how Connor is a sympathetic character. That the way that these people handled it, the way that you, Daniel, and everybody else, the tone that was set by Lauren and Josh and Shaun on set, it's the only thing that makes me sad about it is it's such capturing lightning in a bottle that I wonder if it'll ever happen for me again. But it's just been an absolute joy, and the fact that it has produced a movie that is one of the ones that I am most satisfied and proud of in all my career, it's just a joy. So thank you all for having me part of the team, and thank you all for making time tonight to speak to people and to share your experiences.
You're a gem.
We love you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you so much. You've been an awesome host.
Thank you.
Good night. And an awesome DP, obviously.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
New Year.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.